And a very good evening, everyone. Welcome into your box seat, brought to you in association with Sweet Lou, standing at Woodlands. Woodlands Derby week it has just been, Michael. Always a great race, and I think we found the best three-year-old in the form of Chase Auckland. I'm going to talk about him and a whole lot more. Evening to you.
Evening to you. Big hi to everybody. I hope the start to your week's been good. One thing about the Derby, no matter how deep it is, Greg, it always produces a great horse. We know that the horse who wins the Great Northern Derby is always elite. We saw that last week for sure in race record time. I'm not sure though it was entirely the best performance of the night. We saw something pretty special in one of the support races. And of course, some excellent news coming out about not a forgotten star of harness racing, Greg, but a horse who were put on the back burner for the last couple of months. Sounds like there could be some life in the racing career of Vincent. All of that to talk about in the next 56 minutes or so.
Yep, for sure, Michael. There is a lot to talk about. We've got that performance that you just mentioned, Jesse Dukes. We'll wrap up all of Alexandra Park's terrific action there from Friday night. Massive day for Northern Southland down there on Saturday. Looking forward to getting into some of their features too. Blair Orange drove 5 winners in a day for the first time around about 28 hours ago, to be absolutely exact, and we'll come up with our best bets, which I don't even know why I call them best bets, but anyway, that's what they are at the end of the show. Right, let's get straight into the Woodlands Northern Derby. Here's the start, Michael. Cole Pecker ahead of Sicario, who's a length off his back at this stage, but none of us really predicted that he would get off as early as he did and then take the lead off Sheriff, which completely changed the race.
It was a wonderful drive by Mark Purdon. That's him punching through now into the trail, then straight into the 1-1. You need a little bit of luck for this to go your way, but the All-Stars have made their decisions in the past. From barrier 1 on the second line, they will go forward. He went around, got the lead, handed to Chase Auckland. And Greg, here's what's unfolded in the Woodlands Northern Derby in New Zealand record time.
The HR Fiskin passing lane, then on the cards. There followed further back as Sheriff. It's Chase Auckland. Sicario the inside. Chase Auckland and Natalie for the Derby. And back to doing what he loves best, winning feature races. Chase Auckland, Team Teal's Natalie Rasmussen gets a brace. Second, Sicario. Good run, Sheriff. Third, then Cole Pecker.
Natalie's back in winning form in this big crowd here. The Chase Auckland syndicate just loving it with Alabar, of course, and he had to be great tonight because he's broken the record to boot.
He did, Greg, and I was wide for a long way early, but in saying that though, I wasn't going forward hard. I just sat out there, just let them all settle. But then when I made that move, I really made him commit and wanted to find the top. And credit to him, he just stuck to his guns and he tried real hard.
He just proved off last week's run that he needed one, and now he's come here tonight. He stripped a lot fitter and he's raced accordingly.
Oh, most definitely, yeah. He always felt great tonight in the run. He was really with me. The moment he got to the front, he just felt like he wasn't going to get beat. And so, yeah, I think that run sharpened him up lovely.
Natalie, a bit of credit to Tim Williams and DePoy, who've been up here looking after the team, and they're just getting these horses spot on, as we saw in the previous and now in the Derby.
Yeah, that's right. No, the boys did a great job. Just before the race, Poy said, "No, I can't see him getting beaten." And Poy's a pretty damn good judge. And Timmy up there tries so hard with them. And they all look a picture when they walked in tonight. They're all geared spot on and they're fit and ready to go.
Natalie appropriate in the Team Teal colours, the first female driver to win a Northern Derby as well. So that just adds to the, I suppose, experience.
Oh, most definitely. Look, it's just such a great thrill to drive a horse like this. He's a lovely horse. The owners just are enjoying him so much. I think the teal pants is just such a wonderful concept, so to come out and wear them winning a race like this is fantastic.
Congratulations to you, Nat. Well done.
Thank you, Greg.
And the first female winning driver of the Northern Derby. Look, once he found the front, with the dominance that he's shown so far in his three-year-old career. And you consider the sire stakes when, yes, he had the right run, the Sale Series where he was outstanding at Alexandra Park, and he joins Lazarus, Have Faith in Me, Stunnin' Cullen, Alva Colo and Courage Under Fire to have achieved that treble. And he's got the chance now to go on and win the New Zealand Derby and join a couple of those, Have Faith in Me, Laz, Courage Under Fire and Alpha Cola, who have all done it before.
And all horses who have gone on to win major open class races in New Zealand Cup or in Auckland, a couple of those type of things. And it's very hard to make the case he's not at least as good as them heading forward. I mean, it's a long way to go to become a Lazarus, that's for sure, but he can run the times. He's done nothing wrong in his career. It's really hard to work this crop out because we've lost so much of that middle to top end depth. We've probably lost 5 or 6 really good 3-year-olds to injury, illness or export. But clearly I think he's the best of them, Greg. He'll head to Addington as favourite for everything. I sort of doubt, being his first season, they'll probably extend him into Australia. I imagine he's eligible for a Breeders' Crown, but I doubt he'll go there. It's easy for people watching this, Greg, to think, well, okay, it's the All-Stars and we've seen this story again, and they totally dominated the weekend, we know that. But totally different vibe from what some of the wins we'll see later. When someone like Jean Feast wins a major race, she's so used to it and she invests so much in the game that you sort of get used to her being around. The elation from the syndicate, the Chase Auckland syndicate's enormous. I was hosting the presentation and you can feel the energy behind you. They're screaming and yelping and carrying on. They're over the moon. So to those people who invested what may not have been a huge sum of money to get into these things, we've seen it before with changeover. This is a dream for them.
Matt Mackenzie, I remember him winning.
Yeah, exactly. And it is literally a dream, Greg. You can't imagine if you pay $1,000 for a share on a horse.
You'll win a derby.
And you'll make new friends and you're going to have the opportunity to travel and go to places you wouldn't usually go to. So, as I said, it sometimes feels like it's the same old story, but this is a very different version of it. Just how good he is, I suppose, he'll tell us in time.
All right, let's have a listen now to those that were in behind our Northern Derby champ.
Oh, you just reminded us of what a technical driver you can be.
Yeah, I was a bit of luck early. I got off early and I thought Dex was going to move around me early in the race, but he didn't. I thought, well, I might have a crack for the front. I knew Chase Auckland's done nothing early, so he's going to turn up at some stage. And we got a great run from there on, and I was wrapped with the way the horse went because it was only second up over 2,700 and to go a record. I thought he went super.
Yeah, and off the back of those 2 runs, again, he's in a great spot come the derbies and the big races still ahead.
Yep, that's right, Greg. Yeah, no, he's a lovely horse, and then on to Australia for him after that.
Blair just probably got 1 spot too far back.
Yeah, for sure. We ended up being pot 3 fence, Greg, which is not ideal, but quite happy to start in front, but a bit of pressure, mate. So yeah, it is what it is.
He went very good after that though, and surely gives you some confidence going forward to the Derby at Addington and the other big 3-year-old races, because he's right up there.
Yeah, he is, mate. They've run home 57 or so, and he's taking ground off the leaders, and he's going to have a good future, and his 4-year-old career will be even better.
I'm picking on a New Zealand record. You'd take that.
Oh yeah, Greg, he went good. He ended up 4 fences instead of 3 fences would have been better, but that's the way it goes. But look, he's a good little horse and he tries his best every time. So no, more than happy with that.
Look, there's no doubt there was a lot of disappointment there in the voice of Blair Orange. Last week, Sicario stayed in front and parked Chase Auckland. This week he handed up to him, which put effectively Sheriff out of a winning position, and that's the way the race unfolded.
It's hard, even though he's run on really well the last 2 starts, it's hard to make a case he would run past these horses because he's never shown us he can run past them. Maybe he'll get a chance to show us at Addington. I think at Addington, which is coming up with the Flying Stakes and then of course into the Derby, I wouldn't be scared to bet against Chase Auckland if Sicario was willing to park him. And, different owners, you've got to make a case that maybe that's realistic at some stage again. So I don't think there's a great deal between them. I think Chase Auckland has that more total class, but could you see Sicario turning things around at Addington?
Quite possibly. He's done enough in 2 starts this campaign to suggest that. Let's have a look at the Diamond Creek New Zealand Derby market. And Chase Auckland $1.45, Sicario $9, so a slight move for him. Alta Maestro there, he's at the trials today. We haven't seen the best version of Alta Maestro, who holds the 2-year-old record, of course, for 1,700 under 2 minutes.
Maybe he's a Flying Stakes contender. I'm not sure I see him winning a Derby. Pat's Delight, what did we make of him the other day?
Well, look, as soon as he drew barrier 8 and all of his main rivals, even Sicario, excuse me, won the back row, was a better draw than his. Yeah, I just think the race didn't pan out the way the connections of Pat Delight would have liked. Can he beat the top 2? Again, I haven't been shown enough to say that he can.
I think you put him in the trail in a Derby, maybe he's a chance. But when you look at this market, those top 3 stand out because they are horses who you would think would be competitive in a sort of what used to be called C8 or what rating 90, whatever it is now. They'd be competitive in that grade. Pat's Delight's already proven that, and obviously Chase Auckland would be. The rest of them, you would think, wouldn't be competitive in that grade right at the moment. Now, I'm not saying they wouldn't be long-term, Alta Maestro potentially, but Yeah, I think there's a pretty big line there between the top two, maybe / top three, because we have lost so much depth in that middle region. But these things change quite often. Maybe the one that which would change is getting toward the Jewels. I'm not sure whether Sicario would head there because, of course, he has obligations in Australia. He can go there. So if he doesn't go there and he stays for the Jewels, with his gate speed, I'm not sure Chase Auckland could sit parked outside him around Cambridge. Cambridge for the Jewels is far more draw dependent than Ashburton for the Jewels. So I'm not sure this is going to be a clean the table job for Chase Auckland for the rest of the season. But to those owners, and I saw them at the races at Ellerslie on Saturday, I saw them afterwards, well done to you, because for me they are the story of the horse, along with Alabar and the Auckland Reactor thing, and Graham Henley, who's done an awful lot for harness racing in this country. He doesn't get the credit he deserves. He's one of those guys who's been functionally moving the industry forward slow step by slow step for 20 or 30 years. And he's one of the guys that I'm most proud of and happy for out of the story. I don't mean to be in any way putting down Mark and Matt's efforts, but let's be honest, we've seen them do this 1,000 times before.
Yep, certainly have, Michael. Speaking of them, we need to move to the Brecon Farms, and it was the Young Guns Cardigan Bay. This would be one of the best 2-year-old performances you would ever wish to see.
Well, you say one of.
Possibly the best.
Let's try and think of another one.
I can't.
I can't think of anything better.
All right, let's get Aaron White to bring them home and hear from the man sitting in the bike.
Jesse Duke opening up strongly into the hopples. Star of Montana, Jesse Duke coming to get him on the line. He'll get up. Jesse Duke, Mark Purden. Second, Star of Montana, and throw on the HR Fiskin passing.
Mark, we saw his ability here at New Year's time. I don't even think at that stage any of us thought he would be able to do that tonight. That was phenomenal.
It was, Greg, yeah, not his own fault, just got tightened up early and just made that little break, but got phenomenal effort afterwards.
Coming wide, that's a race record, inside last year's record by Mark Shard by a couple of tenths of a second, but coming wide after losing that ground over the short course, yeah, that's right up there.
Oh, look, Greg, when I made my move, I thought, well, it'll be a great effort to run third, and then halfway down, I thought, God, he's going to run second here. And then, the last 75, 80 metres, I thought, he's got it.
Yeah, well, you've had a great record in this race, as we well know, but this little guy, he's a solid, chunky sort of a fella, so he's really made for 2-year-old racing, isn't he?
Yes, he has. We're looking forward to the future with him, Greg. He's a really exciting horse.
Congratulations to you, Mark. Well done on a very good night again.
Good. Thanks, Greg.
Yeah, terrific performance from him. Oh, I have to concur with you, Michael. I cannot think of a better run at 2-year-old level.
When you think about the 2-year-old great victories over the years, most of them have tended to be dominant type horses, like Courage Under Fire. I think he won the Sale Series by 8 lengths or something. And they tend to be in front, Greg. It's very rare you see our leading juvenile races, Group 1s I'm talking about, won by horses coming from last. Now, that's without what happened at the start. I mean, here is that start. So the horse outside him appears to, I don't know the exact reasons for this, but appears to lean in a touch, and Jesse Duke gets pushed back to last and gallops, obviously. So here it goes. And around about here, I legitimately thought, well, this horse can't win. So he's not just galloped. These horses, see, keep your eye on the horse in front. It's getting further and further and further in front. So there he's giving it 8 to 9. But not just that, he's then had to come 3, that's him at the back of the pack, and now 4 wide. So all of a sudden, if they'd gone a 158 mile rate, you go, well, these aren't much good, and he's come around them and beat them. He's given them conservatively 8 or 9 lengths. He's come widest, obviously. He's been 3 wide for the entire last lap, but they've gone a race record. So it's really hard to get your head to compute that. I'm not saying he's a champion. I'm not saying he's the best juvenile we've ever seen, because there's a whole heap of things that need to happen before that discussion even starts. But I can't remember, Greg, a better juvenile performance, because they really come from last. I can't remember one where one got checked and won a Group 1 after losing that conservative 7, 8 or 9 lengths.
Not in that speed, and the horses that this guy's running down are, I think, pretty fair animals. Both Star of Montana, who was outstanding in the final heat, and Supreme Dominator, who won that in front. They're not poor horses, so I don't believe this is a poor edition of this race.
That's where the time comes in. Had they gone 158, 159, you go, well, these aren't much good. but they've gone a race record, and they still would have gone a race record even if he hadn't won. So then you'd be saying, you know, they're good horses. He might be something exceptional. He's bred to be exceptional. He is, you're right, shape to be a 2-year-old, and he topped the sales last year. And it's important that some of our sales toppers start to show up, because often, Greg, they don't in the past. So, you know, it's good for the sales that people can invest at that top level, but you know, where he ends up, how good he's going to be, how we possibly going to know. But at the moment, it's exciting to think that what we just saw may only be the beginning for him.
All right, he managed to pick up, as I said before, some fair horses, so let's hear from the drivers of those. Well, he certainly franked what he did last week. That was a really good performance again.
Yeah, I've probably driven him a bit tougher again, and you know, to his credit, you know, he stuck on really well. So he's a pretty nice horse. So you know, we expected him a good run, and you know, if I didn't have to do a bit too much, you know, you never know what happened.
He still went very well though.
He did, yeah, and obviously the winner is a pretty class horse.
Well, Brenty's gone very good again.
Yeah, he has, Greg. You know, he steps up every time, and yeah, he run the markers, but still he got home, he hit the line well, and it was a good effort.
What's the plan from there?
I'm not sure, Greg, whether he'll go down to Addington in a fortnight's time or stay up here. I'll just, yeah, we'll have a look and see what happens.
Plenty ahead of him, though.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, he's a nice, handy little horse, and he'll do a good job.
Zach, that probably didn't pan out how we all thought.
No, I thought, you know, when I look back and Mark had been chopped off, I thought that's worked out well for us. But, you know, he's just a great horse, and it was a good effort by him. But my guy went well, you know, did do a little bit of work, and they went 2-1 and a bit this week. So he's dropped another couple of seconds, just got a little bit tired late, but stuck to his gun, so I was happy.
All right, the roadshow in terms of them will head south now in the main, so looking forward to those features out of Addington, particularly through the month of May, leading back to the Jewels at Cambridge. We'll leave that there now, but we've still got plenty of features out of Alexandra Park, including a star once again on the rise. Star Galleria was too good on Friday night. Free for all paces, let's get straight into that. He was too good the week before, Star Galleria. Yeah, there were a couple of circumstances that aided him this time, but Michael, he was low flying at this point of the race, and if you were on, there was no fear.
Yep, things like a couple of the races the other night changed very quickly at the start after Jack's Legend had a gallop. That's him going to the inside there, but get the feeling it wouldn't have mattered back to back for the Star.
Out the minors, but Star Galleria completes his hat-trick and does it in fine fashion. The Reed man gets the Quinella with utmost delight. Well, Jack's Legend.
Very, very quick last 800 metres.
Yeah, sort of when they started coming around to go, he really lit up and got right up on the bit there, and yeah, he's feeling extremely well, and yeah, as you saw, he just kept running.
Jack's Legend got it a little bit wrong in the early part of the race. That probably aided your chances, but he's gone to the next level, this horse, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's got stronger, and that's what you hoped would happen, and he has certainly got stronger, and Stephen's spent a bit of time with him and given him a bit of time, and he's had a couple of problems with him along the way with his injury there last year, but no, it's sort of stood by him now.
He's got the whole game, hasn't he? He's got speed, he can stay. We saw that in the Auckland Cup, and because he's only lightly tried, there's definitely still some improvement there.
Yeah. Like I said, he was pretty ready to go tonight, sort of thing. But he usually does settle pretty good, and yeah, so it's all good.
Chokin, Sly Flying, Hoka Punter, the Orange Agent, and now this horse. It's a fairly good lineup, isn't it?
Yeah, it would be a great field, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be, and you've won it 5 times with those horses, so well done to you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Greg.
Yeah, not surprising he's associated with another very good horse. That's quite a lineup though, isn't it? Good effort, Reedman, Utmost Delight in second. Jack's Legend was obviously very good after making that early error, but Star Galleria's flying.
Would have been interesting to see if Jack's Legend had held up and held the lead, whether he could sit parked outside him and beat him. Suggest maybe he could. I'm not entirely sure. That argument's one for another day because they have at least 3 more attempts against each other with the Taylor Mile, the Messenger and the Jewels. When you see him in this type of form, obviously Lazarus is in the paddock and we have had a whole bunch of good horses disappear out of the country, Have Faith in Me and Waikiki Beach and Heaven Rocks. It's hard to make a case there's many other better horses in the country. So Dream About Me and the Orange Agent are coming back. The Dream About Me not to next season, the Orange Agent hopefully later this season. It must have been tempting to take him to the Easter Cup. Gee, it must have been tempting.
I did talk to Stephen about it, and he said, no, I'm sticking to my plan. Yeah. The plan was always, and good luck to him.
And good on
you
him.
know,
I think he's right. Because if you go to the Easter Cup and he has a gut buster at 3.55, you come back, and what should be a Jewels you think you can win becomes a bridge too far. So look, I would love to see him go on and become a New Zealand Cup horse. I think he can. 4th in an Auckland Cup's close enough to that.
He's a better horse now too, yeah, there's no doubt. He's
still not an imposing horse, but they don't need to be. It's a little bit of sort of Massini about him, the way they put their head down and stuff. But look, the speed's there. So look, it's great to see Reedman with these good horses, his career kick-starting back, and we mentioned him last week on the show. Jack's Legend, gee, it's been a topsy-turvy old ride for him since New Zealand Cup time. We know how good he is. He ran second in the New Zealand Cup. So these horses add depth. By the way, just talking about the Jewels, Jillaby Kung Fu, the connections of him have contacted Harness Race in New Zealand, been in the paddock for the last 10 days after the Miracle Mile, and said we are getting very keen to come to the Jewels for a one-off, if they get invited, which they would, because he ran second at the Miracle Mile. Now him, Jack's Legend, who is the defending champion, and Star Galleria would make for a real highlight for Cambridge. So as much as Reedman and Bowery probably don't want to see up, yeah. I think it'd be a cool thing for the Jewels if he does turn up. But as we know with the Australian invites in the past, people said they're going to turn up and they don't turn up. We hope they do, but of all the horses who were potentially ever invited to the Jewels, Jillaby Kung Fu would be the best one to have
Well, he's serious. He's like Divisive was, I think, when he came, and he's probably better, to be fair.
He's already run second in the Miracle Mile, 147. So he would be as high up the tree as you can get. But he won't come for the Taylor Mile and the Messenger. This horse, you would have thought on that performance, would be hot favourite for those two, but later on in Invercargill we'll see a horse, Greg, I had completely forgotten existed.
Yep, we'll get to more the better as the show rolls on, but let's have a look at the 2-year-old fillies final, and it was with Crombie Lockwood, of course, the Delightful Lady Classic. She had to sit park, be very brave, and that's exactly what Princess Tiffany was.
Passing lane, bubbled up, gets out of the 1-1. Garter, Princess Tiffany, Miss Streisand on the passing lane. There followed bubbled up. Kendra's letting down with a powerful burst as well. Princess Tiffany, Garter, Game and Miss Streisand on the inside. Princess Tiffany remains unbeaten in gallant fashion. Second, Garter, Miss Streisand third, and fourth over.
The best tonight, sitting alongside them, although the speed of the race, you were able to dictate it from the park position.
Yeah, no, when I ended up parked there, I've never sort of had her in that position before, so I didn't know quite how tough she was. So yeah, and I know she was quite quick, so just tried to, keep as much as I could for the last straight, and yeah, she proved that she stood up to it.
Very quick last quarter, 26 and change, just shows her versatility at such an early stage of her career.
Yeah, Greg, she's always been a real professional little girl, I think that's going to be her biggest asset as a 2-year-old. She just can do a bit of everything. She's got a little bit of gate speed, she's tough, she's quick, and she just drives like an old horse. So, yeah, I think that'll take her a long way.
The Whitelocks and the Crichtons, they've been great supporters of the All-Stars team, and with so many good races for these young age group horses, particularly the fillies, right throughout the country, it's a great time for them having a good one.
Oh, it is, yeah. They've had a bit of a dry spell since they had a couple of good fillies quite a few years ago. So, no, it's just lovely to get a couple of nice fillies for them, and Kayla Marie goes around tomorrow, and she's doing nothing wrong either.
Yeah, they're having a great time of it, certainly at the moment. Congratulations to you, Natalie.
Thank you, Greg.
Dexter, you utilised the barrier draw, and she went pretty close to winning it.
Yeah, she did, Greg. She's a really nice filly. Last week she got back on the fence, pulled hard, and run on pretty good afterwards. But we got a good draw. I just said you got to use it. So yeah, we put up a good fight. We got a pretty good run in front, but couldn't be more happy with her.
With natural improvement, she's going to be competitive in all these.
Yeah, you think so. She just seems to be keep improving all the time. I think I drove her in one of her first or second workouts, a while ago now, and she's just got better all the time. So yeah, a good season ahead for her. Hopefully she can pick up some bickies.
Mark, on the face of it, she probably had her chance?
Yeah, yes and no, Greg. It was just a sprint home, so I think, the first 4 in the running line were the first 4 home, and that's, couldn't make ground but didn't lose ground, so I was happy with her.
Yeah, she's only going to improve with racing as well, and she's clearly going to be competitive, isn't she?
Oh, yes, she is, and she's a big girl, but a great stayer, so it'll suit her win the big monies here.
Well, Ricky, it was always going to be difficult from the draw, but the way the race panned out was almost impossible.
Yeah, it definitely was, Greg. They ran home in, 26.6 or something, so I had no show, to be fair, but, you have to be happy with the run from where she come from, so, just got to get a decent draw, I guess.
Learning experience this trip for her, and she's only going to get better. We know there's a decent sort of a bottom to her, isn't there?
Yeah, she has woken up a bit up here, there's no doubt about that, and I think she'll grow a leg from it, so, probably need to too.
Yeah, I think she's one that could seriously challenge Princess Tiffany throughout the remainder of this season. Didn't catch up with Tony Hurley with Miss Streisand, but she went a good race. She sat, in a decent spot, got the trail throughout. 14 colts in a row the Whitelocks had, hence the reason why there was that big gap between them having a bit of fun, but they're certainly having some now.
So obviously they sell their colts.
That's the plan.
And retain the fillies?
He's got the couple have got an absolute business plan where the colts are sold and they keep the fillies and they race them, and that's how they do business, and that's why they've been away. They had Dancing Diamonds, the mother of this horse, who won 300,000. Oh Baby, but there's been a dry spell.
I think Oh Baby might have been Natalie's first Group 1 winner in New Zealand.
Neville fillies final.
Close enough to it. This is a very good filly. I mean, you never know how these things are going to shake out over the course of the next 6 months, because they can be racing to the back end of August, which is an awfully long time away, but pretty hard not to be impressed by that. Sitting parked, too good, key rivals around her, stable mate and second favourite on her back. Did it make an inch of ground? She's the top dog at the moment, or top female pup, whatever you want to call her. Yeah, she's going to be awfully hard to beat. So a lot of water to go under the bridge for these horses, though. 2-year-old fillies, they train off, they come back up again, they ebb and they sway. So we'll see how this goes. But at the moment, the Whitelocks have the top 2-year-old filly in the country, and that total and utter domination of the meeting by the All-Stars outside of Star Galleria continued. Yeah, and of course Phil and Margaret Crichton are in this one to boot. Let's go and have a look at a race they didn't win. They weren't in it. They've won all 10 races they've been in lately, by the way. This was Opotama in the perfect spot, Michael. Yeah, it was. Well tipped out by the Whale on the night too, and again shows you how difficult it is to come from back in the field on these days, which makes the Jessie Duke performance a bit earlier even more remarkable. But Opotama, look, she's going to be worth a good bit of money as a broodmare. She's had no luck with meeting very good horses or being stuck in the wrong part of races, and Greg, a long way from home, you didn't want to be on the key rivals here. Delishka clearly underperformed, and she just looked like she, not say had enough, but just had a bad night at the office. Yeah, she did. She ended up parked right from the get-go. Overall time here, not fast for this class of horse, 2:42, and a sprint home. I thought the second horse was good again. American Empress, she's had a really good season. Well done to Jeremy Young. He continues to lift her to her peak at every occasion. Pretty much he asked her to do that, and making good ground again, American Tart. If you did the stats on the major mares races in New Zealand, it would be remarkable how many are won by the leader or a trailer. I know a lot of races are like that, but the mares tend to be so even, and they tend to go so quick in these races compared with just a normal mares race. So once they get in that nice grade together, they just fly along. It's just so hard to get them back. The utmost delight breeders is an anomaly. Exactly, it really is. Very much so. Like, you go back over some of the Group 1s over the years, the leaders and trailers have just won. I know that a lot of times mares are dominant, so therefore the best ones tend to work their way toward the lead, but gee, the stats would be heavily weighted to those horses on the speed. You know, we are missing a couple of our top mares, but it's good to see these mares having that consistent racing. And
it was a good race. I mean, it was a good competitive race,
Greg,
good betting race.
We've been harping on about it, and we'll continue to harp on about it on this show. We need more opportunities for these mares, because take poor old Oputama. Now, she won't have many chances in the grades. Once she gets back to normal grade racing, she's probably not good enough to beat Jack's Legend or Star Galleria. And in any other country in the world where there's pacing, she wouldn't be asked to.
She'd have her opportunity against her own.
In North America, she'd never race a boy ever again in her entire life, if they didn't want to.
Speaking of mares, Sunset Peak, again, tipped out by Craig Thompson fairly strongly on Friday night. Took out the Green Lane Cup, got the flat tyre the week before, got the lead here, and was pretty brave, I thought.
Yeah, and trotted that nice even time off the front, that the back markers, some of them just never got into the race, like Le Mans, for example, but she gets challenged here by the much improved Sartorius. Great to see the famous Butcher colours back winning a feature race.
So Sunset Peak takes out the Majestic Horse Floats Green Lane Cup, the 28th edition. Yeah, you're right about those colours. Sartorius has become solid, and Princess Macendon, after getting disqualified last week, got an economical trip and made up some good ground late in the piece. But she deserved that win for the Connections, win number 7 from just start 38. Hard mare to get past when she's in front.
And when you watch those races, so you've seen 5 races now from Alexandra Park, and lead trail or outside the leader for Princess Tiffany have won them all, apart from the Jessie Duke thing, which is why I'm going back to it. That is such an incredible anomaly for juvenile racing, for premier night racing. If you watch another 1,000 juvenile pacing races, and dear God, for your sake, I hope you don't have to do that. But if you do that in the rest of your life, you may never see that again. And as much as it was Chase Auckland's night, that was still a Group 1. That is what I left that night thinking, wow, I just saw something there I may not see again for 10 years.
Yep, hard to disagree with that. In that race was Scott Phelan, and he's got a new role, so I took time out on Friday night to catch up with him and ask him just what that was about. Well, Scott, news out during the week that you've got a new role.
Yeah, no, it's come across. Tom McPharlin and the North Island Train Association have put together a new role for me to do, and you know, from what they approached me with, it seems like pretty good.
Yeah, helping out the youth and giving them, you know, a bit of a guide as to what this game's all about, and I guess it's part of your maturity in life.
Yeah, it's probably settled me down a bit in the inquiry room too, so look, it's going to be good for both of us, I think, and hopefully I can help them out any way possible.
Well, I think it's a great idea because, you know, the young people coming through, a lot of them don't understand or know what's required, and you've been through it all.
Yeah, look, I've had a pretty good grounding, so I hope I'm the right man for the job, and I'll give it my best.
Sure you will. Congratulations on the role, and we look forward to seeing your progress.
Yeah, no worries. Cheers, Greg.
So that just complements him being back with Barry Purdon, of course, and yeah, I fully applaud the Northern Division for coming up with that idea, and I'm sure he'll be an inspiration. He's driven a lot of good winners.
Well, and also for some of the younger people in the game, that sort of 18 to 25 range, it's probably easier to talk to someone like Scott in your own language than it might be, you know, someone like a Barry, for example, who they almost see as a legend. Not that Barry's at all scary, but you know what I mean? It's hard to talk to someone.
You can relate to someone
exactly.
A lot closer to you.
Also, when someone's had that much success, whereas Scott they still see as maybe close to being one of their own. So I think it's nice there's any mentoring capacity there, because sometimes when you're that age, it's embarrassing to ask someone a question. How am I supposed to talk to the Stipes, or what am I supposed to do? And it's an extension of that process we already have, the kids' carts, into the cadet scheme, into having someone to look after you, or someone you can just go ask questions to, or even go in the room with you. So well done to the Northern Horse people, and the more we look after the youngsters, the more chance they are sticking around. Yeah,
we certainly wish Scott well in that role. We're going to take another break here. When we return, massive day it was for the Northern Southland Cup, their Cup Day, and the support program was superb, so we'll wrap up some of those races. Stick with us. Let's get into it. Northern Southland's day in the sun, and they certainly had some wonderful racing, so we'll review some of those features for you now. More the better, hadn't been seen since the Breeders' Crown. Well, he just could not have been better. He was outstanding. Have a look at this here, Michael. You shouldn't be able to do this. He's won in 3:22. He's come off the back mark and he's first up.
I honestly forgot he was alive. I don't know what I thought happened to him. I don't know if I thought he had been sold or he had just gone missing in action, but comes back like that. You watch Star Galleria on Friday night and you go, well, he is the horse to beat in the Messenger. Then you see this and you go, not so sure about that.
He's barely rubbed the rein over his rump.
Phenomenal training effort, but let's not get too much into the training thing again because people get sick of that.
Tim Williams aboard.
Part owned by the champ, by Roy Purdon, one of the greats. So, look, clearly he's come back a very, very, not improved, just good horse.
Well, he'd won $500,000 going into that,
he's
Michael.
Now, I'm not sure I've got this right in my head, but I'm trying to think of something else which won't be. He has to be favourite for the Easter Cup. Like, who else would be favourite for the Easter Cup?
Well, it's only a fortnight away, of course, as we know, Saturday fortnight. But he would be favourite for it. I can't think of another horse that...
And as someone had said to me at this 3 months ago that he could potentially win the Taylor Mile of the Messenger, I would have said, oh, didn't they sell him to Perth? I don't know where I thought he had got to. He just disappeared, and I hadn't seen him for ages. The good news about the Easter Cup, even though we're not going to see Vincent in it, is the very excellent news that's come out in the last couple of days. Vincent, they expect to race again. Now, we sort of lost him on the eve of the Ballarat Cup, which was only 6 weeks ago, but it seemed like months ago. And there were real concerns that the suspensory damage was going to be so severe he would need to get a stud. He's come back to Matamata and he's had the stem cell therapy where they put the stem cells into the injury. Spoke to Mark at length. He said, I'm pretty confident we'll get him back next year. Now, next year seems a long time away, and that means no Lazarus versus him in the New Zealand Cup and no into Dominion. But if Lazarus is to have his last season next season, you know, a horse like Vincent coming back at least gives us some star power. Other horses will emerge, but it seems like an awful long time since this race, Greg.
Oh, is this the Auckland Cup?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
He's a genuinely very, very good horse, and the fact that we may, and more likely than not, see him back at the track is good news.
Yeah, it's outstanding news, and you know, I want to see him take on the absolute best Australasian-wise when he's 100%, because he's clearly as good as anything we've seen in the last decade, I think, because he shouldn't have been able to do this. He just won this easily.
Outside of Lazarus.
Outside of Lazarus. Yeah, that's a fair call.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So, yep. Hopefully they're thinking that early next season he can be coming back and potentially be a racehorse rather than a stallion, which is what they thought he may be. So that's good news. But I don't know where the open class ranks stand because, as you said, Easter Cup's 2 weeks away, and I can't think of a horse who's going to be more favoured than More the Better, who, as I said, and I know it sounds ignorant, but I honestly forgot he existed. Yeah,
the Superstars is the following week, so we can go around in that as well. So, yep,
especially with the northern horses who are race fit and race fitter than him, not going down there.
Here. Yep. Haras de Trotteurs, 3-year-old fillies, Oaks, yes it was, and we talked about that last week. What a terrific idea this has been, and they got a field to reflect that. Here's Luby Lou in front. Now, if you think, well, who the heck's Luby Lou? This is the horse that beat Renesmee in the Breeders' Crown heat when Renesmee went over and won the Breeders' Crown final. Luby Lou was put in the paddock. Renesmee trying to get to Luby Lou, but too good, and again, yes, it didn't get it right first up at Ashburton, but she got it right here.
Yeah, she's bred to be good, and she's beaten Renesmee twice now, who is the gold standard for 3-year-old trotting fillies. You get the feeling she's the real deal. I know it's very early in her career, and there's lots of battles to be won and run yet, but this is a good 3-year-old trotter's crop, no doubt. Already they're capable of beating older horses. Well done to Northern Southland for holding an Oaks race. I think it's awesome, these 3-year-old trotting fillies getting more opportunities. But look, I'm not saying she's better than Renesmee yet, but she's had 2 chances to prove that she is so far, and she's got it right both times when she's trotted throughout.
I thought Zaza was pretty good there too, Sitting Park. That's the family of Aramid, Zuri, Midnight something. Something.
It's not called Midnight something, but we're going to call it Midnight something.
Yeah. Midnight Invasion it was, sorry.
Look, we now have these Oaks races, which is great, and of course the Breeders' Crown in Australia is divided into fillies versus colts. This horse has only come back March. you would suggest she'll probably press through to the Breeders' Crown, which I think it's a smart modus operandi for 3-year-old fillies, because there's nothing for them as 4-year-old mares. We don't split the jewels. So, yeah, but she's going to.
And there's potential taking on the boy trotters and the derbies and that.
Well, the girls
seem to have
in pacing can't beat the boys very often, not in the derbies, but
we saw it with
trotting
the
races.
you know.
It happens quite often.
Yeah, it does. Destiny Jones, this is probably the feel-good win of the weekend for me. She's had her problems getting to the races, and she's been there a couple of times and unfortunately has been late scratched. Here she was outstanding, Blair Orange at his best, and I thought a terrific run. That's Harriet Mott trying to chase her down, but well done. Win number 9 for Dean Hunter, and this performance was her first winning performance since she beat Amaretto Sun in the Ordeal, and we know what Amaretto Sun went and did in November.
Yeah, and the slightly sad story to come out of this race, of course, is that Dark Horse was scratched and has broken down, and she's out for maybe another year, which is a real shame, because when you think of Southland, and you do think of the great paces who have come from there, but these days, particularly think of the good trotters who come out of there, because so many good trotters come out of the region. But yes, I feel for Nathan and the connections of Dark Horse, but you're right, the Destiny Jones story, it's the other side of that coin.
2-year-old fillies not only starred in the north with Princess Tiffany, same stable, had 2 good chances in the Caduceus Club Southland Alabar Fillies Classic. Sitting Park, not normally the spot to be, but it was at Auckland and it was again here. Gee, Kayla Marie was very, very brave here. Strong performance.
Is this also owned by the Whitelocks?
Yes, it is. Correct.
So they've had 2 2-year-old fillies.
One end of the country each.
Both sit parked and win. Well, that's pretty unusual.
It's probably never happened before.
No,
I wouldn't have thought so.
And the Teal pants.
Olivia Rachel was good, did trail and had every chance to run past, but she was luckless the week before, of course, at Addington behind Dracaris, who actually galloped going into the first bend the first time, so that took her out of play. But she deserved that win. She tries hard. You can see her head down there, and she'll be very competitive in all of the upcoming features.
Well, it's nice to see that they've got 2 really good fillies for the Whitelocks and the Teal pants here. So was that Michelle Nielsen, was it?
It was, yep.
Okay,
yeah, she's been driving this filly throughout.
What success that's been, the Teal pants campaign. I think they've raised about 20k.
They have, yeah. We'll touch on that very, very shortly. Kilowatt Kid took out the Nugget final, these races that have been put together down south, and what a cracking contest it was again. That's the bus in front. Now, he was probably slightly disappointing, but maybe, if we're going to be critical, may have gone a fraction too slow. That allowed Kilowatt Kid to get over the top, but congratulations to the connections of Kilowatt Kid. He got the bus right on the line. He's nominated for the Derbies by American Ideal. Out of Wave runner, who's it's a half to Bonnie Jones, so there's plenty of breeding here. Alistair Black had a couple in the race, and he's doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, and look, as you said, nominated for the Derby, you think, oh, how come? But this is a good, strong performance. We need some depth in the Derby, and that Wave runner family, gee, it's been a good family the last 10 to 15 years. I think it's the same family as Second Coming as well, so there's a Second Win, sorry, the horse on the Taylor Mile, so same family as them.
It's a deep family.
Yeah, it's very much so. So, hey, it'd be lovely to see another horse from the south make it up for the Derby.
Let's not forget about our West Coast friends. We've got one in here with us, of course. The Kawatiri Cup was held at Westport, and this was on Friday. Favourite outside the leader there, but off its back. That was James Dean. Comes Franco Tristan, and it's just gone whooshka here.
Tell you what you should never do, Gregory, is call people from Westport West Coasters, because they're from Bulla and they're very particular about it. They actually are. People from Greymouth and Hokitika, and bizarrely Reefton is seen as part of the West Coast, but Westport's seen as part of Bulla, and it'd almost be like saying that you're from South Canterbury.
Righto, we'll move on to Paratus Ideal Darling. Ricky May trekked across the Alps after being at Auckland and drove this one for Simon Adlam. He had a few steers himself on Friday, did Simon, but Paratus Ideal Darling, in front spot to be at Reefton.
That's on the West Coast.
Yeah, good mate, I knew you'd say that.
Well done to Simon. It just goes to show you how much these horse people get around. I mean, look at Ricky. Mr. 2,000, God knows how many wins. He's drunk a stack of winners.
2,800.
He goes to Auckland and then he turns up at Reefton, and he's exactly the same professional. And not just him, there's a whole bunch of people who do it all the time. The All-Stars backed up Friday to Saturday, Auckland and Invercargill, so...
Not like you to go off before nominations. Now we can talk about the Teal Pants campaign, seen as Reefton was where it all ended.
Do that. What, 20 grand, eh?
20,000, yeah, great stuff. Look, Samantha Otley led the way. She won 10 races. Nikki Chilcott,
She won
another
10
ambassador.
races?
She won 10 races in that 6-week period. She won 4. Natalie Rasmussen won 4, and obviously won the Derby wearing those pants. And you heard what Nat had to say. She was, delighted to win a Group 1 race as part of that campaign. But to Harness Racing New Zealand and Woodlands, who got behind it, and all the clubs who supported it. Look at this day there. Everyone in Teal. Even saw Robert Anderson driving in Katie Cox's pants at one stage, just to show that he was supporting that. Just think about that before you say anything, Michael.
That's an unusual story.
It was.
What's important, it's also important for people who are not part of the harness racing industry to see the harness racing industry cares.
Yes.
They don't just care about money and gambling and that sort of stuff. They care about the community they're part of. And obviously ovarian cancer research, it's not a cancer you hear a lot about compared with, for example, breast cancer. But this is something that affects everybody, because these cancers which affect ladies affect men, their brothers and husbands and fathers and sons. So it's great to see the harness racing community getting involved in this sort of stuff. Started in Australia. I get a funny feeling it's going to become part of our February for a long time to be.
Well, I think 39 winners. Well, I don't think that's how many winners were in that period. So that just shows you how prolific the female drivers are.
Also extends our conversation from last week. It's become the norm now. Whereas 10 or 15 years ago, outside Nikki and Michelle and a couple of others we mentioned last week, it was very rare, but an array of female drivers driving winners all the time here. So, hey, it can only be good for the industry, and as I said, it can only be good to bring people and keep people inside the game.
Speaking of caring, what about this? Someone snapped Cassie Fahey, our own presenter, out collecting for the SPCA. So good on you, Cassie. That was outside Valentine's, I think.
She's very much an animal person.
Yeah.
She actually was handling...
She'd hate the fact that we've done this, but good on her, getting behind it.
Yeah, well, she's one of those people, she like a lot of people at track. So it's quite funny when you deal with the people at track. So a lot of people think they're presenters and they, drive nice cars and do silly things and don't really care about the horses. Most of the people here love animals, and she's, obviously dealt with yearlings at the yearling sale. She's been through the cadet scheme. She absolutely loves it, as most of the people in this building do. So it's one of the strengths of the place, because could you really be stuffed doing this for a job if you didn't like animals? But that's a step I wouldn't do. I'd give $5 to the SPCA. I wouldn't go collect for them.
Yeah.
Would you? Well, I didn't see you there with your bucket.
No. Moving along.
She's probably a nicer person.
She did that for all of us.
Cassie.
Good on you, Cassie. Across the ditch, a bit of action from across there, and here's a win in the Grand Prix. His name, Tornado Valley.
Is this the same horse in the
Terry
South Island?
McMillan.
Are you sure it's the same horse?
He developed this horse, and now it's a Group 1 winner. So I reckon you would have taken a lot of pleasure out of that, Terry. Tornado Valley in front. That sparkling success, who someone said on TV in Australia about a month ago was the best trotter in Australasia. Well, now it's been beaten by Tornado Valley, who wouldn't have been in the top 10 here. So
Andy Gath can improve a horse, but look, Tornado Valley's done a super job to win there. It is hard to believe it's beaten Sparkling Success, but good on him. Terry looks after his horses beautifully, and Andy's taken the next step with it. Here's Franco Nelson, a horse who's been around, and he sat parked at Menangle the other day, and I can't believe he's racing this way, because I thought he was stuffed.
Well, as we have said on the show before, right about now he'd normally turn it up and be trying to find the quickest way to get out of it, but he just keeps running through the line here. And well, Shane Tritton said he's the best horse he's ever trained. He's had a few good ones, so that's another terrific performance from him. Of course, he won the Bohemia Crystal, and are talking about a potential New Zealand Cup tour at the end of the year.
We could do with him.
That'd be
Obviously,
great.
he's still part owned here by the Mackays. We could do with him and Soho Tribeca and Tiger Tara, because, as I said, we're not going to have too many big guns up against if Lazarus is back for the Cup in November. So the more the merrier.
Michael, I saw Wobbly one again,
one the other day.
and it sounds like maybe a Jules.
Yeah, look, it's really difficult to talk about the jewels, because, I mean, some people look at these Australian invites and go, well, they never turn up, and they want to get angry about it and stuff, but you can only keep asking. It's the more internationalisation we have of the product, the better.
Michael, Kilmore Cup this week, Shadow Sachs v
up against Soho Tribeca.
Barrier 4 versus 7. Yeah.
Soho Tribeca's a way better horse than Shadow Sachs. Yeah, I think Shadow Sachs is
only
a good horse.
Only 70,000 the Kilmore Cup. I always thought it was worth more than that.
There used to be a standing start race back in the day, but there's no more standing starts in Victoria, so that'd be tricky for them. But look, it's probably the highlight of the harness racing weekend, because there's some really good fields at Addington, but it's almost the hiatus weekend this weekend.
It is.
It's a weekend where we go, right, and then we recalibrate and we kick into Addington's huge carnivals, and and then before you know it, the Jewels will be here. So I think a lot of people want to catch their breath too. I felt the carnival at Auckland into Ellerslie because they are so closely linked to each other. By Saturday, a lot of people have gone, right, I've had a massive summer of racing.
Give me a break.
Give me a break. And I'm taking one. I'm not on the show next week. So good news, if you don't like me, you can watch the show next week because Matt Cross is going to be on.
Well, you've stolen all his other gigs, so I'm quite pleased to have him alongside us next week.
To be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
But the baby brand, as they call it, will be on the show next week.
Brand. All right. Big night, actually, a Piccadilly Princess goes around Friday night at Menangle. That'll be worth tuning in for, along with a host of other Kiwis. Speaking of which, we took the opportunity to catch up with not only Tim Butt when we were in Sydney, but Mark Jones, because of course he has a stable over there, and here's what he had to say. Mark, never shy of thinking outside of the square. When did the mindset come to fruition in terms of setting things up here over in Sydney?
Yeah, probably more when Menangle setup come about, and it's probably always been in the back of my mind, like probably the biggest seller of horses in New Zealand, and what I was finding my owners were selling horses and they're coming here and winning a lot of races and we weren't getting the enjoyment. So especially with the money on offer here was probably always in the back of my mind, and also the handicapping system. So it's kind of been in the pipeline for a couple of years at least.
One of the difficulties, of course, being based in New Zealand is setting things up with the right type of people running the show over here for you. How difficult's that been?
Yeah, it was a long process. Like we tried to get a trainer from back home, and that didn't really work out, and probably we were pretty lucky to get Ashley on board when we approached each other, and to get someone of her quality and her experience and her knowledge, and also the driving ability is a big asset here. So it was a thing that did take time, and I didn't want to rush into it because I wanted to make sure it's right, and the way it's working, it's definitely the right decision. The barn set up here, how many horses can you accommodate? We've got a 10-horse barn here which we accommodate, but we also have other barns we can flow into, and we've got a property around the road with the house and another barn with paddocks, so there's room for plenty more horses if they're available, and as I said, we've got options for paddocks and other barns, so it's a pretty good setup. Pretty imperative that you made an impact early on, so you had to bring the right sort of horse. Yeah, you only notice if you're winning, Greg, and we're lucky we had Woodaka to kick things off, and then Delightful Memphis on the Rocket Band, so the cream of my team are here, but in saying that, they were earning a lot more money than they would back home, so it was one thing I was pretty conscious of. We had to make an impact when we got here, and we've won group races, and Ashley's done a fantastic job, so we're pretty successful in that part. What was your first season target? Did you set a number of wins, or was it not really like that? Not really, it's just getting the most out of them, and it's probably exceeded the first year. Like, we've won a group race already with Woodaka, and he got in the chariots, which he would never have done back home. Rocket Band, she's qualified for the ladyship again, which is, her aim for the year, and Delightful Memphis has won some pretty big races in the country, so it's definitely exceeded expectations, but what it also does is show the opportunities for our horses in New Zealand if they are racing in Australia, so the more people see that back home, hopefully we attract more horses, and I'd rather the Aussie money come back to New Zealand owners than staying in Australia, and the exchange rate's pretty good as well. So what about long term? How long do you think this operation can go, or is it not really finite at this stage? It's just day by day, but the way Ashley's doing it, hopefully it carries on for a long time yet, and we do need to attract more horses and get more opportunities for them here, and if we keep attracting horses, it'll definitely carry on, and you'll probably see more and more come over, and the owners are starting to understand it's probably cheaper to fly to Sydney to watch the horse race and go to Invercargill, and it's a good weekend away, and the money's so good here, and what they earn here is 10 times as much they earn back home, and I think we had 19 starters for 17 in the money, and when they're winning, they're earning a lot of money, so financially it's pretty good for the owners, so I think it'll continue for a long time yet.
So what's ahead for you this week? Second day of the Manawa 2 meeting, the Palmerstonian Classic there for $12,517 the start time, $40,000 in the Fast Track Insurance Pick 6. Good night at Addington Friday night, 10 race card there, 5:38 the start time. The Sire Stakes prelude with Hara de Trotteurs and the Neville Fillies heat, which is pretty important along with that bonus quaddie. A very good day at Wyndham on Saturday, the $25,000 Group 3 Alabar New Zealand Kindergarten Stakes and the Wyndham Cup. 11:30 the start time there. Motukarara, 30,000 in the Fast Track Insurance Pick 6 there. 11 races, 12:08 we will kick things off. And Cambridge, Neville Fillies heat there to boot on Sunday. Heat number 5, 12:30 will be the start time of that. It is a pretty important race out of Wyndham, so let's go and have a look at the Kindergarten Stakes. Wardan Delight, this is winning the Sapling Stakes at Ashburton. He was really strong, and I expect him to be pretty hard to beat once again. That's Blair Orange charging up the middle of the track there, so we expect Wardan Delight to be the hardest one to beat in what should be a very competitive Kindergarten once again, and he was strong in this. He really found the line and did it in good style, beating Heisenberg on that occasion. So Wardan Delight, a decent chance in that. Don Domingo flashed home, beat the bus. This was in the Cheviot Cup. That's him back in the middle in about 6th position. The gap's opened up, the bus grabs the lead, and Blair Orange is able to extricate him out of that awkward position right about now. He was going to be unlucky, but he wasn't. He dashed through and he won, and he made it win number 7 at start 22, and he made back-to-back wins. He takes on the bus again, Fun at the Beach, Mongolian Storm, Ultra Orlando. So yeah, there's some pretty good horses in that race. Speaking of Blair Orange, what about his performance at the Manawatu? Yes, he has joined the 5 Winners in a Day club. What a boys. Hannah Extreme, Twitter Bromag, Mustang GT and Delightful Kaz. So a great effort by him.
5 wins, a second, 2/3. He's now 30 clear on the premiership.
Yeah, that's right.
30 clear on the premiership. Incredibly difficult to see how Dexter can peg that back. I've spoken to Dex about that and said, what do you think? He said, I'll just keep driving and do the best I can, but the Manawatu thing is proving to be the absolute factor of this. And well,
he's
done
won
to
24
House.
races there.
Yeah, Michael House is having a killer season as well, and Manawatu again is a factor. And some people would say, hey, this is low-hanging fruit. You've still got to put them on the float. You've still got to put them on the ferry. You've still got to get them there, keep them healthy. You still need to put an awful lot of work into this, and Blair still needs to spend time away from his family to get this done. So the bottom line is, a race win at Manawatu is just as legitimate for the premiership as the Auckland Cup. And it's helping Michael House, and it's probably, almost certainly going to help Blair Orange to win.
Yeah, well, career best for Michael House now. 31 wins he's got to. Last season 30, and did you know? Never had a winner at Manawatu. He's had 21 there this season, so great effort by him. There's Blair joining that list of 5 wins in a day, so well done to him. Monkey off the back in that regard. He'd driven 4 on plenty of occasions, but yep, he's now driven the 5. Best bets.
Bit of a bad run last week. Jack's Legend, I picked as my best bet. I don't think it would have mattered. I think Star Galleria would have beaten regardless. I think Better Joy will win this week. I think she'll turn the tables on Ali Mack. She gets the better of the draws. I think there's not a lot between the two of them. I think she'll win race 4, and you're going nice and early.
Yeah, Hansy's got barrier 2, should just about jump to the lead, and therefore makes it the one to beat. Drawn to its inside as a fair horse and turn it up from the same stable, but I think Hansy will take out that, and I'm miles overdue, Michael, to grab a winner.
You go through these runs, Gregory. It's been a very, very busy time. It's hard to keep up with all the form, but it was good to
keep
be back
the
on
faith.
track with our good friend, the Whale, last week, who tipped really well last Friday night at Alexandra Park.
Week off for you? Yeah.
Yeah, taking a week off. It'll be nice to have a chance to freshen up. I'm going to go up to Asia and check out some horses and learn some more stuff, hopefully about racing. But yeah, for all those having a punt in the week ahead, good luck. And yeah, tune in next week. The baby Brand will be here.
Yeah, looking forward to having him, Matthew Cross. That's been your box seat, brought to you, of course, by Woodlands and Sweet Lou. Enjoy your harness racing week ahead.